So please welcome Jim Self to the show. Welcome, Jim.
Actually, it's my pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, and like I said before we hit record, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I have been going down your rabbit hole, and I love rabbit holes that just suck me in and change my everything, or even confirm me and my thoughts that my expansion, my awareness. And I've been interviewing, like we were just talking about, listening to somebody, and then it's almost identical to what you have been thinking. Well, the last few interviews, you're confirming that to me. Like you're saying that we're repeating, but it's coming from a different person. And it's so fun to have this podcast and this opportunity to have you on the show. And I was just explaining this to a friend saying, have you heard of Jim Self, Mastering Alchemy? And they said, no. I said, just you wait. It's going to take what you know now, understanding what it's done for me is like, oh, I am living in the fifth dimension. I have created a place where I recognize my thoughts. And when they're not in alignment with love and happiness and joy, I shift it and I bring it to the new octave. So
Nice.
so I'm trying. So anyway, thank you all the way from Olympia, Washington. That's, my home is Washington, where I grew up. And I know it's only been a couple years, but anyway, so Jim, let's go down a place. There's so many areas to go down. In my mind right now, I can see like these paths, right? And which door am I going to open? I want you to start with when you, in your lifetime, and started to uncover your magic. And when that moment when you started, I know you have like such a diverse background. Make it kind of like when you maybe like, oh, this is when I realized why we're here put on this earth, because you've come
Sure,
I mean, there's so much more, but why don't we start there?
sure, sure. So I could tell you the biography, an assistant to the President of the United States, building biomedical corporations, but that's not what you're asking for.
No.
You're really asking for, I was born into this body conscious, like we all are. And then we begin to grow up and we begin to listen to mom, dad, teacher, minister, etc. And they begin to say, this is what we do and this is how it works. And we don't talk to them, we do talk to them, we go here, we don't go there, blah, 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 etc. And that spark in the eyes of that little 1-year-old that we all love to look at 2 years old, it's not quite the same. And at 3 years old, it's beginning to be gone if it's there at all. And we shut down those spiritual psychic abilities, clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, etc. Clairsentience, that ability to feel, begins to be very dramatically shifted from the passion of love and joy and excitement and everything is wonderful that that little 1, 2-year-old has, to a place where there's doubt and uncertainty. In my reality, I didn't shut it off. And in real terms, it became a real problem because I would see what was going on. I would feel the lies. I would recognize that this isn't quite, and I would not turn it off. And, growing up, I had an ownership of myself in a way that kind of is funny. I'd hang out with all the guys in high school and yeah, they would drink and smoke. And I would say, no, it's not what I do. And I would just own it. It was not a big deal. It was just like, no, that's not my thing.
Hmm.
And and that sense of independence also got me in a lot of trouble. I was dyslexic growing up, but nobody knew what that was.
Right.
So I was obviously stupid, which was my father's favorite word. And like in high school, I mean, I graduated, I think 443 out of 448. And they said, Mrs. Self, the world needs truck drivers. And I thought, that doesn't make sense. So that was my environment growing up. And but I didn't let go of those abilities and they got me in trouble. But they also kept me pretty sane in my own self. And I had permission to experiment. I had permission to just decide after high school, I'm going to stick my thumb out and hitchhike to California because those Beach Boys songs were really cool, and created a life. And then at one point in college, somebody challenged me. I'd never been challenged. I'd never been said, you can do this. You have value. 4 point from that point on, vice mayor of San Jose, et cetera, that life. But that internal psychic spiritual space never left. And then I accidentally stumbled into a place called the Berkeley Psychic Institute in Northern California and got a psychic reading. And all of a sudden, what they were saying and what they were doing, I knew before they said it and knew it. And it was like, maybe this is what this is. And so in that context, for 14 years, studied at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, taught at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, left that, created a space called the Avalon Institute in Northern California, left that. But all along, there was this internal guidance system that you have, I have, we all have. And when you listen to it, you come out on your feet 100% of the time. Whether it says, don't do this, and you listen, you realize afterwards, that was good, I didn't do that.
Right.
And where you say, I'm ready to jump off the cliff and fly, and everybody goes, no, no, no. And you do it, and you fly. That's that internal guidance system that's very much coming alive in everybody right now, if paid attention to. And if paid attention to is really the kind of the key word here, because we have lots of conflict. We have lots of this is right and that's wrong and do this. Then we have the whole construct of linear time. That's a construct of the third dimension. Time is an application. It's not a truth. It's not a fixed way it is. But third dimension, we believe that. Third dimension being the life that we just generally live every day. But when you begin to recognize yourself in present time, you step into present time, into this moment, you start to find that that ability to observe what's going on works for you. And in my case, I stayed there for a long time in growing up. And that internal guidance system for me became a conscious voice in my head, like so many people. And if you listen, that voice is you, it's a spirit guide, it's archangel, it's whatever you wish to label it, higher self. But in my case, it was another being called Metatron. And Metatron, being part of the Archangelics, Lords of Light, basically said one day, there's a path that's never, ever been walked before. And it's all about your personal ascension, raising the earth back to its fully 12th dimensional state of Christed consciousness, and holding the door open for all of those in third dimensional experience, the limitations and dualities, to step into a higher new realm of consciousness. Would you like to play?
Mhm.
Well, you don't really say to Metatron, let me get
No.
back to you.
Right.
And so out of that, mastering alchemy came about for the last 25 years, very much focused on who are you? How do you think? How do you hold emotion? What are your habits? What are your beliefs? Whose truth is that you're living or not?
Mhm.
And what you begin to realize when you play there is, I live on an awful lot of other people's truths. I think an awful lot of thoughts that are not my thoughts. And I hold habits that are based in those beliefs and thoughts in the local environments that I have observed in my life to basically say, this is who I am. And that's all changing right now very, very swiftly, if you would. But that's pretty much how I've gotten from there to here.
Oh, I love that. So let's go down open this door. Door number one. I when you're explaining how fast it's coming, and I've talked to and listened to multiple people that are saying the speed, like when you look at AI and how technology is, every day it's something, it's faster and faster. And I know we can talk about that, but when you think of this ascension that we're in and what the new earth looks like and the magnetic pull, you talk about the solar eclipse, but could you talk about the transition in this calling that you had 25 years ago and where we're at now in 2024, that where that earth, why it's doing that now, like where are we going? And the
Sure.
2020 was, this COVID started this like opening, that was when I started this podcast. It was like
Yes.
there must have been something in my higher self that said, Ashley, you got to start spreading this to the
Yes.
universe.
Yes. Yes. It's that moment where you just have a new awakening,
Right.
and it just seems like just another moment, and you go, oh, that's an interesting idea. And then you're off on another path.
Right.
And so one of the things that's happening there's always cycles, there's always seasons. Have the winter begins to give away to the spring, and the summer begins to give away. And so we're in one of those major cycles. There's a series of 15, 20 cycles all arriving at this particular point simultaneously. So there's a huge sense of motion in place. And there's a huge awakening that's going on. And in the simplest terms, the third dimension, the game that we've been living, the duality, the linear time, the separation, the domination, the imposition, the control, the greed, all of those things had its time. Okay? And in another conversation, we could talk about it had purpose.
Right.
Even though as ugly as it might appear right now, it had purpose. And the purpose is absolutely spectacular when you understand why all of that pain and suffering, et cetera, came into your reality. Now, you also want to know that you're not here by accident right now. In a way, and I say this with jest, but absolutely seriously, you pushed your way to the front of the line. You said, send me,
Mm.
and the creators kind of smiled and said, well, let me explain this to you. What this is, you're going to go down and play, and you're going to put a bag over your head. You're going to forget who I am. You're going to forget who you are. It's kind of dark down there. It's really confusing. And you're going to find your way back. And you went, hot damn, that sounds like a great adventure. How deep can I go? And the creator smiled and said, knock yourself out. And you and I said, watch this. And here we are. Why would we do such a thing? Well, the answer is spectacular. But the answer is not something that is easily understood at this moment, especially when you look at the third dimensional world and the transition and the pain and the suffering and the wars and the famines and the climate change. But you came here for a reason. And so, in simple terms, that third dimensional box seasonally is falling away. You're seeing the cracks, you're seeing all the pieces that don't work. You can no longer, you consciously know that this level of domination over, control over 1% owning 60% of the wealth simply can no longer go on. And so that's falling away. It's becoming conscious, it's cracking, it's falling away. What's happening even on a greater level, this level of consciousness, this level of light is coming into your awareness. Your neurons are being expanded, your consciousness is being expanded, you're remembering who you are in very big terms, but it doesn't quite fit your reference points. When your reference point is, I'm supposed to be, and you look at all the things that you're supposed to be, married, my 2.4 kids, a great job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, status, third dimension. Even all the people who have that, they're not happy. Something is missing by accomplishing that. And that's what's falling away. This level of light that's coming in is enormous. And It's consciousness becoming conscious to you. You mentioned artificial intelligence a minute ago, and consciousness has said to me, there is nothing artificial about intelligence.
Right.
And one of those waves of light that came in last summer, particularly, was consciousness said, I'm going to begin to present as intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom. And then we kind of look at equinoxes and solstice, not for the purpose of equinox solstice, but just a moment in time. What's going on right here? And the next equinox came in and the word was smooth. And it made no sense on one hand because it wasn't brilliant, it was just smooth. But when you begin to put the intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, it's coming in on this very smooth energy. And all of a sudden you are thinking thoughts you weren't thinking yesterday. And you're not traumatized by it. You're not curious. It just simply, you are beginning to think differently. And much of the pain that people hold from their linear time past experience is starting to fall away. You are literally forgetting memory. The memory that you're forgetting is not yours. It's that moment where you showed up someplace and you made a funny comment to all your friends and they turned around and laughed at you, but not with you. And you went into shock or withdrawal or I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, directed the rest of your life. And so, but that was never your event. You just stumbled into a point of experience. As you begin to find this level of strength and certainty and capability and focus, which is what's coming into the heart, those doubts and embarrassments and sense of I'm not okay, I don't deserve, nobody likes me, is all falling away. Now, for the ones that are starting to be conscious that something is happening and stepping back and beginning to recognize I can build a different platform to know myself. So, for example, if I said, have you ever been certain? People go, oh, sure, I've been certain. Do you know what certainty is? Sure, I know what certainty is. But if I said, take a breath, close your eyes, sit back, and feel certain, a very different experience than
Very different.
thinking certain.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you could begin to get into present time, we'll talk about that in a moment if you'd like, but present time, right now, right where we are right now. We're not in breakfast today. We're not in lunch or dinner tonight. We're right here. We don't have a lot of baggage right this moment where we think back at, oh, I was embarrassed. I wasn't okay. I'm not a good person. That's not in your awareness right now. In this right now, if a person could begin to build a platform, I'm going to say 3 lines, 3 words, 3 feelings. Let's say certain. How would that feel? Comfortable. How would that feel? Capable. How would that feel? When you put 3 things, you see, in physicalness requires geometry. Just keep that simple. Geometry, the simplest geometry is an equilateral triangle. Keep it simple.
Okay.
So if I could feel 3 words and feel them begin to weave together, certain, capable, comfortable, and take a breath and decide I'm going to live this moment from that alignment. Oh, you weave other words, strength, seniority, happy, another triangle. And all of a sudden, if I could live it in this minute, and now live it in this minute, and now live it in this minute, all of a sudden, I'm living it in every moment. And when you're using those words, certain, comfortable, capable, you don't have room to go into, I'm not okay, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, they don't like me. And see, this is this level of light that's coming in. As you begin to hold thinking from the heart, living from the feeling, everything unlike it falls away. So the simplest part of all this, there's no work to be done,
Right.
nothing to do
Mhm.
except like yourself, love yourself, be pleased with yourself.
Right. You know, we had spoke before we recorded about my daughter who's going to college and struggling, and what you're saying now, it's like, I mean, it brings me tears because we're speaking that right now about, like her uncertainty, turn that uncertainty to certainty. Those words are so powerful, like you explain it and feeling that. It's that feeling. And you talk a lot about the law of attraction. And, and I always have taught the girls that their whole life, and I believe that, it's that feeling. And you explain it even to a deeper level. But to get somebody like so present moment for me is like being in nature, looking at the trees, walking my dogs, uh, just being in that moment of gratitude and having those words envelop my whole entire being. And I have that. And I've practiced that a lot. And now with you in my mind, it's taken it to the next level. But when I'm looking at, the 3D, this density, all the things that are going on, and now understanding it better because of learning more from you, of like it's just part of this like breaking down. It has to break down, and this is all part of this what the plan that the universe, this is the time in history that we did choose to come here and to help move the level of this planet, go up to the steps, right, to 4 and 5 and 6. But we, when you're with the little minds of my daughter, for example, and she's telling me uncertain, scared, and so I'm telling her what you taught me just, an hour ago, like think of different words, what are the words like safe? It's going to be fun. You're going to be like, you're going to find ways to be creative and find fun things, so how do you, when people are listening right now and they're like, oh, easy for you to say, Jim, Ashley, you have practiced it and you are aware and you can change. I'm like the word police. I hear a word and I'm thinking, why are they saying you got to change that? Let's move it into a different feeling, right?
Yeah, yeah. So partly this concept of platform. So see, I've never really said this, but for example, when people use the word gratitude, in a lot of ways, it's a misplaced word. And what I mean by that is it's like love. Oh, just be in love and it will all work out. Nobody knows what love is.
Hmm.
Gratitude is a powerful word, but when it's used prior to its ability to be aligned with the power of gratitude, it just falls on empty,
Mm-hmm.
falls in emptiness. So when you can step back and begin to have that platform and just really begin to recognize, you can add any kind of word you want, but we've really chosen in mastering alchemy a series of 6, 7 words right from the very beginning, right from literally day one: certain, capable, happy, seniority, graciousness. Now, see, graciousness is not a third dimensional word. You have no graciousness. It's impossible to experience graciousness in third dimension.
Mm-hmm.
When you begin to approach and experience graciousness, you've just stepped out of the third dimension. You're in a very different, we could call it platform, dimension, that simply allows a higher vibrational experience to be experienced. In those lower doubt, uncertainty, jealousy, rage, resentment, anger, see, first, those are all emotions. So something that might be useful. Emotions have edges. People often say, what's the difference between a feeling and an emotion? Emotions, this is not a truth, but it's a reference. Emotions have edges: anger, jealousy, resentment, rage. Feelings, comfortable, happy, appreciation, graciousness, no edges.
Right.
So if you can begin to recognize Did I wobble when I looked at that person with resentment? Or did I allow, big word, them to be who they are while I'm being who I am? Some assembly required here to step out of third dimension, but it's getting much more comfortable to be able to do that. So this platform, this just sense of how do I wish to own myself to step into my next moment? And it really comes down to present, quiet, and aware, and then choose to step forward.
Right. Yes. And when you speak of stepping forward and living from that fifth dimensional, you call it well-being. That's the
Well,
word you use. And you talk about the things in that fifth dimension, and yeah, that's how I really feel that I I'm so in the well-being. When you said the word well-being, I'm like, oh yes, it's just well-being. And when you talk about you know, the elementals, you explain what it looks like and how we're moving in and how we don't eat animals and how we're even speaking to animals, like that whole thing I would love for you to describe, and how, I feel like that's going to be within the next, I mean, we're going to start seeing those
now,
type now, right?
yeah.
Go into your description of that because I love it. It makes
Okay.
me excited, right?
Yes. So this, keep in mind this level of light and think about it. There's a moment in everybody's life, whether they're conscious or not. And I had an experience once a long time ago, camping out in the woods, and it's 3, 4, 5 in the morning. We're not asleep, but quiet. And all of a sudden, something happened. It was just like, something changed. And it was really clear. It just went from night to day. Still dark, 4 in the morning, maybe. And from that moment on, as you kind of looked at the darkness, you couldn't see the change. But if you closed your eyes for about 30 seconds and then opened your eyes, it was different. But you couldn't say how it was different. And
Mhm.
then you did it again, and also it was lighter and lighter and lighter. We're well past that 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning point. We're at the point where the light is now getting large, but the sun has not come over the top of the mountain yet for many people. For many others, it has, and it's illuminating and it's exciting, and there's a passion that comes with it, and an excitement comes with it. You see, one of the things, the vibration of fear and excitement are identical. It's the same vibration. One, you step back, hesitate, doubt, and have uncertainty. The other, you step forward into passion, opportunity, and excitement. And so the key here that everybody's beginning to be presented with is choice. How do you choose? Now, even with that said, you are beginning to become alive. You are beginning to wake up. You are beginning to see in that darkness because you've closed your eyes and you've just opened your eyes, and it's different. I can't tell you how it's
Mhm.
different, but I know it's different, is what many, many are beginning to say. And close your eyes again in the excitement, and it's lighter the next moment you open them. But as I said earlier, the next moment you open them, you have let go of unconsciously doubt. I'm not okay. I don't deserve. Nobody likes me. Those were never your ideas, and they fall away because you're now in the present. You're not looking back to something 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
One of the things to your question that's starting to happen, one of the skill sets that we all have is telepathy. And so telepathy is one of those things where we all have the experience. And my mother and others used to say, stop finishing people's sentences. That's rude. But in fact, that's a skill set of telepathy called narrowband telepathy. And what happens when I like you and you like me, we get into this synchronicity, and all of a sudden we're matched. And you're moving and I'm moving, and that dance of excitement is happening. And it's in that space, I know what you're going to say before you say it.
Mhm.
And quite often we finish each other's sentences. What's about to happen is you're going to realize, I know the whole thought you have, not just the next word you're going to speak. And that sense of awareness in the match, in the light that's coming in, is something where all of a sudden I know you and you know me. And we don't know each other in anger and resentment, but we know each other in beauty and well-being. And pretty soon I can't not like you, be angry with you, disrespect you, because I'm looking at my mirror of
Right.
myself. And you're watching that unfold. And in the same process, you're watching relationship with animals. You're watching relationship if you walk through the woods and say hello to the trees and just kind of breathe out the hello.
Mm.
The next in breath is this kind of euphoric feeling. They're saying hello back.
Right.
Well, that's pretty outrageous until it's not. And that's this whole transition. You're just simply beginning to move and you're forgetting what you have been holding on to forever, moving into what you already know and remembering who you are.
Right. Oh gosh, I have tears because it's just such truth to me and how I've been feeling. And when you're talking about telepathy, I do this. I've been for the last few months have I play, how oh, I've been thinking about you and you call me or
Sure, sure.
so I'm in the car and I start thinking of somebody and then there's the name on my screen and she just texted me and I said, oh my gosh, that happens so much.
Yeah, and smile and just go, damn, this is good stuff, because
Yeah.
then it happens more.
Right. More, please. Thank you. More, please. I always am like that. So let's go into you talk about the park bench, the backpack, the tools, the rose, the aura, all those cool things that I think Jim Self needs to explain because I feel like that's kind of your, I don't know, that's something that I've taken from you that I would love to share with everybody about.
Sure, sure.
Yes.
So let's go back to that platform to start there. So what do you want would be the question. And if I was to answer that for people, I want to be comfortable. I want to be in ease. I want to be in joy. I want to laugh. I want to be happy. So if you asked 100 people, 99 of them would say, I want to be happy. Okay.
Right.
So if you can begin to play with this platform, and let's start it even simpler. One of the things, another one of those psychic spiritual abilities is called clairsentience. And clairsentience is a tremendous skill. It's really a skill for you as an individual that says, what is going on in my awareness? And so there's a little, let's call it sonar machine in the second chakra, and it sends out a pulse. And the pulse basically asks one question: what is that feeling? It's really saying, what's going on in my reality right around me? And so it sends out the pulse and it hits all the people that are around you, and it comes back and it says mad, glad, sad, happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a perception of your reality that's around you. That doesn't just stop at 10 feet or 30 feet or 50 feet. If you're very much in present time and begin to recognize how it works, you can say what's going on in the other side of the world and you know the answer. But what happened is growing up, and many people grew up in a dysfunctional family, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
and there was yelling and screaming and hitting and all those kind of things. And yet we would say, what's going on? And we would get the answer back, mad, glad, sad. And after a while, you began to be more protective and you changed the question from what's going on, what do they think, to what do they think about me?
Me. Right.
And can you hear the question is very different now?
Yes.
That one over there is still mad, but he's now mad at me. I don't even know who that is. And so we wind up beginning to withdraw, shut down, hide, avoid. Well, I don't want to go over there. And so if you look at the life of many people and the people that are listening, are you a hider? Now just take a breath and answer the question, and the answer is going to be yes in so many cases. Well, what are you hiding from? And there's no answer. Well, something. No, you're still hiding from that one over there that's mad at 7 years old, 4 years old, 2 years old. So in a lot of ways, we're living in the past, holding on to a set of emotions, and then using those emotions to determine my reality. One of the things about your linear time structure, past, present, future, and then you die, that belief is, well, that's how it is, most would say.
Mhm.
But if you, in the past is fixed, I can't change that. That's not true. So if you take the past and you really look at it, it's two things. One is an event occurred. I use this example often. I stole a candy bar. Well, I just liked the candy bar at 5 years old. I took the candy bar, I took a bite of it, but everybody told me I stole it. I was bad. I was being, you can't do that. They threw a lot of energy in my space, a lot of blame, a lot of anger, knocked me completely out of my body. And I came back. And one of the things that happens when you come back into the body, there's all the event. And so you never get back to where you started from when you get yelled at, punished. So the event occurred. I did take the candy bar. I did take a bite of it. Was I stealing it? No, but they told me I was. So now I'm guilty. I'm defensive. I have this sense I better not steal anything. I'm ashamed. Fill in your words. The event happened. And you say to me, did you ever steal something? And I go, oh, yeah, I'm really not a very good person. The second part of that past is there's an emotion. There's a whole lot of emotions attached to the event. But if I said to you, okay, so, you're still 30 years old, and did you steal a candy bar? And you go into that shutdown, yes, guilt, etc. But if I said to you, take a breath, you're at the age you are right now, are you going to steal another candy bar? No, it's not even in my reality. Then why are you carrying the emotions of the guilt of something that was 25, 30, 40 years ago? So right here, and this is where the light is being really very effective. If I was to take a breath and I was to separate out the two, the event and the emotion. See, emotions only occur in the present time. Emotions don't occur in the past. They occurred in a past present time moment when I stole the candy bar. But if I put my attention on the event and I pull the emotion into my space, I'm still living the emotion. So if I said to you, well, let's just play here. Yes, I stole the candy bar. Take a breath. Does that emotion have any value to you right now? The guilt, the blame, the shame? The answer is no.
No.
Does it serve you? Would you like to let it go?
Yes.
If you can take a breath in present time and recognize, I don't need this, and it has nothing to do with my reality, it will disappear that simply.
Mm-hmm.
If you will just decide, don't need this. That's a process. That's a skill set. That's a tool, if you would. But if you can hear that the emotions I'm defining my life by are basically from my past and my fear of the future, and you can bring yourself into present time and say, how would I like to live my life? Begin to build this platform. The second piece, this clairsentience piece, is we don't define. If I said, where do you start and stop? There is really no place, but there is the edge of your aura, that energy field that's right out here. If you stick your arm straight out, turn the palm of your hand towards you, plus or minus an inch edge of your aura, all the way around you. If you were to basically make a decision that from the edge of my aura to my heart is me, and everything on the other side is Shakespeare's theater to entertain me, and you created a mental image picture, really simple, a rose. Roses work. Everybody knows what a rose looks like. And right here, if you just mental image picture and then take the rose and put it right on the edge of your aura, take a breath and be on your side, allowing Shakespeare's theater to be over there, your life changes in that instant. If you can stay on your side of the rose and be entertained by or allow what's over there, all of a sudden you realize a great amount of what's over there has nothing to do with me at all.
Right.
And change begins to happen.
So I'm thinking right now, because that I was walking today doing that with my hand. And then I was thinking, okay, I don't let anything from all this contrast that's going on right now affect me. And I'm not playing like I'm not putting my head under the table and like hiding from it or pretending it doesn't exist, but I don't let it I can't even watch what's going on. It's like it doesn't and it can't even vibrate in my field. It's like so
Right.
interesting to watch and I'm like, wow, I can't even have that part of my being. Is
Yeah.
that like when people say, well, you're just going to ignore the world and you're going to sit here with your rose out here and like just observe this like whatever is playing on this movie screen that we're watching every day and just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Well, I kind of do that, but how do you say that to people?
Well, let's take away the words denial and rejection and just burying my head in the sand and switch the word to contrast. Contrast. What I'm doing is I'm observing my reality and I'm choosing how I wish to define my reality. And I'm looking at that Shakespeare's theater from contrast. I'm creating a filter called contrast. And I'm also basically recognize those emotions, anger, resentment. I don't like those feelings.
Right.
Joy, happy, gratitude. I like those feelings. So I'm observing what does that experience do to me when I look at it. And if there's an edge to it, and I look at this one over here and it's kind of a joy, choose. So you're beginning to be given the opportunity to become conscious of consciousness in a different frame of reference. So once you bring in contrast, once you define the edge of your energy space, and you allow that to just be the world, the movie going on, choose, do I want to be in this movie or do I want to be in that movie?
Right.
And that's about as simple as it can be. It's not more difficult. It's just simply take a breath. But if you're caught up in the emotion of the politics and the dramas, it's hard to step out of it. And so that's where that present time neutrality, certain, capable, comfortable, begins to allow you to pull back, consider well-being, consider disruption, and choose.
Right. Okay, so but I want to start talking about the science of this earth and how you we talk about the energy of the sun, the solar flares, the eclipses, this energy, this magnetic earth that we live on, the mother Gaia, the feminine energy that is coming through more dominant than the male. And you see that, I mean, I see that in my life so much. And you the one I really want to talk about elementals. So that keeps coming into my mind because that I've never heard that part of the fifth dimension and onward because I do have a lot of people that listen to this that are connected to that energy system,
Sure,
if
sure.
that's what you call it. So I'm really fascinated. But can you explain the science of, I know this Earth was five dimensional, and and then it switched to the third dimension, and now we're coming out the other end back into that place, right? Could you?
Sure, sure. So think about your day. You have breakfast, then it's gone. You have lunch, then it's gone. You have dinner, then it's gone. Then it's the next day. You have lots of moments. They come and they go. They come and they go. In this space where we're playing, we have been in a construct for whatever reason, we've been playing in this game. And, it's like night versus day. The night has certain characteristics to it. The day has certain characteristics to it. And we've been passing through that. And now we're passing completely through it. But if you think back at your life, in every single moment, you've had a choice. You could go right or you could go left. You could stop or you could go forward. And so in this space that we're playing right now, the edges and the limitations of, let's say, the night space is beginning to give away in that dawning day space, just using that reference. And it's loosening up, and there's more awareness coming into this space. The dark monster over there, well, that's just a tree and a rock in front of it. And so it's like, oh, okay. But if you think about it from the standpoint of where we are right now, you've got a third dimensional world that is got a lot of the old game in it. And the old game is something that's challenging because there's a part of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala does two things. It perceives emotions to support itself. And it really deals with kind of black and white duality in a lot of ways. There's one part that says, I've got to gather up the tribe. I'm afraid. We need to protect ourselves. We need to create stability. We need to create our security. We need to make those don't get in and we live here. Well, there's a tribe. You see that tribe today. The other one basically says, how is it possible? Let's go explore. Let's basically make life wonderful for everybody. That's in the brain. That's a construct in the brain. And that construct very much is the third dimensional game. So right now you've got a third dimension that is basically starting to crack and fall away, cannot continue. And you have that one tribe beginning to say, I've got to argue for my stability, my own truths, and I'm scared, and I've got to basically hold on, argue for my limitations. The other one is beginning to say, so let's call them third and fifth dimension for the just sake of the moment. You come along and now you watch the television and you can turn this channel or you can turn that channel. You walk outside and there's a protest and there's one side and there's the other side. What do you give attention to? And so make it even simpler every moment of your day. You've got a choice. And so in this place where I'm suggesting we build that platform, that's a choice. Do I hold on to the emotions with the edges and then keep giving my attention to them, hoping they're going to go away? Or do I simply start to choose very intentionally a level of joy and ease and well-being and certain and capable and laughter, and begin to find people that I enjoy? It's like your daughter going out and being on the crew team and in the middle of the rowing has nothing else going on but the joy of the experience.
Right.
Take that joy of the experience into your class. Take that joy in your experience into walking. Take that joy in your experience of being admired and just simply, this is who I am.
Right.
That process of basically making a decision, who am I and how do I wish to choose the life? That light that's coming in right now is making it easier and easier and easier. And so your question about the elementals, let me kind of go into that. The elementals have many layers to them, but one of the primary layers is the layers of the elementals we're talking about. The passion of excitement in that fire element, the stability and groundedness in the earth element, the flow and the movement of that water to where it's very tangible, and yet it's a joy. You just it's like a buoyancy. You move up and you move down with it. The air, it's just very freeing. It doesn't have any resistance in it, and yet you can move it to rearrange your creation comfortably. So if you can basically look at the elementals from that standpoint, the ability to start to engage with the elementals to create the reality. You can take it into the walk. You can take it into the go out into the ocean in San Diego where you are and just kind of ride the wave up and down, just the buoyancy. You know what that feels like. All of a sudden, it's just this exhale that just everything releases when you get into the water. And so using the elements from that standpoint right now is going to become very valuable. Going forward, it's the engagement with, let's say, the water, because the water has intelligence. The water was the first element without getting into that. The water, that intelligence, that knowledge, that wisdom of consciousness is coming through the water. And when you just basically begin to match the water, float in the water, move with the water, allow it to just simply be what moves you, all of a sudden that consciousness presents itself as intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom.
Mhm.
It's in the elements where you're going to start to remember where you came from. As we go forward, you're going to remember Atlantis. You're going to remember Lemuria. You're going to remember Arcturus. You're going to remember. See, it's like you look up into the stars and it's the same neural network that's in the brain. If you just kind of
Hmm.
look at them, it's the intelligence that's in the brain that's being presented to you. Listen to astrologers like Pam Gregory.
Yeah.
Does a magic job with how she talks about with this planet and that alignment. All she's doing explaining is the positions of intelligence lining up to present you with a choice in the light beginning to come into the day. It's so simple. But what happens is simple is not easy for the human of third dimension to recognize.
Right.
It's so simple.
Well, that's the thing about you is that that's what I've enjoyed so much because it is so simple. And I was dreaming, had a weird dream last night, and I woke up and I'm listening to you talk about, I know that I've always knew, like Dolores Cannon always said, like your body gets tired, but your soul goes on when you sleep. But
Yes.
you really explain that because you like astral travel, you're aware of your in your sleep when you're dreaming.
Yeah, and it's hard to explain because everybody tries to translate it into a physical dream.
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So you have these layers of consciousness, and we'll call them dimensions. And in a dimension, there are rules and structures for each dimension. And so, for example, conditionality or unconditional, there's nothing unconditional in the third dimensional rules and structures. It's conditional.
Right.
Unconditional love, yes, it exists in the fourth and the fifth and other dimensions. So each dimension has its construct. We're calling the third dimension physically and the fifth dimension physically identical. The tree in your backyard is the same tree in both dimensions.
Okay.
But in the fifth dimension, it's all about well-being and joy. In the third dimension, it's about doubt, uncertainty, distrust. So different experiences in that physical dimension. But the fourth dimension, we're going to start hearing a lot more about that. It is non-physical. It is a thought realm. So when you have a thought about anger, let's say, is it tangible? Does it get heavy? Do you feel it in the body? Versus you have a joy about laughter and ease and you're smiling and you're listening to somebody in a nice match that's telling a funny joke. There's no density in that space. It's just light and buoyant. And so the thought realm has density to it. Thought has density. You ever ask the question, where does a thought go when you got done thinking the thought you just thought? It
Right.
doesn't go poof and nowhere.
I
So
learned that from you.
in that fourth dimensional space, all thought ever thought is stored. Going back to the elementals and the earth, The thought realm, all thoughts ever thought, is also the emotional body of the earth. And when you think back in the third dimensional game that we've been playing, the wars, the dramas, the limitations, etc., all the hatreds and the doubts and the judgments, that's all sitting in the third dimension, in the fourth dimensional thought realm, the emotion of the earth. So as we begin to step into this fifth dimensional space, where two big words come into play here is allowing and permission. See, you've always had permission. Nobody gives you permission. We give up permission. We give up seniority. Allowing is a space where, as you step into this fifth dimensional space, the ability to allow others, those third dimensional folks that are arguing for their pain and limitation, allow them. They're working through their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you get in and judge them, you're just throwing, your sand into their gears. But if you can allow them, what happens is the third dimension in your reality begins to just fall away. And that aspect of your contribution to that fourth dimensional space, you no longer are holding on to, I'm not okay, I don't deserve, I'm a bad person, I stole a candy bar, and I should be guilty forever. You see, your thought aligns with all the thoughts everybody else has thought about that stolen candy bar. And there you are creating a binding in that fourth dimensional thought realm, holding the earth in its suspension, preventing its own growth. The climate changes we're having right now, to a great extent, is just the earth beginning to try to unravel that thought realm, loosen it up, basically make it go away. But you, me, everybody listening, as you begin to get into this lighter space of enjoying the buoyancy, laughter, and recognizing certain, capable, and comfortable, you begin to start choosing right or left, and you begin to get over here. And pretty soon, in the next couple of years, you're not going to remember an awful lot about that third dimensional game you grew up in. It's no longer important. It doesn't relate to you in present time. You're not going to steal another candy bar. So why hold on to that emotion? As that emotion goes, that fourth dimensional space where all the candy bars have been stolen just start to dissolve in the earth's emotional field. And then you begin to see what the earth has been for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. You're going to begin to remember where we've been.
So go back to the dreaming. Did you get to that? Did I understand that?
In my reality, it's consciousness. And
Okay.
so I can make it more simple. So you basically go home every night. You simply go back to that which you are, not in the third dimension, but the love and the beauty and the alignment with creator, with consciousness, with the higher self, with the soul. And see, in a way, no, not in a way, you are living in simultaneous time. You don't recognize that in third dimension. There is all your lifetimes, all your thoughts, all of your creations are right now. But when you hold on to the limitations of perception, that third dimension is the only thing we know, you do not have access to all of that. When you go to sleep, all that begins to be there. But when you go to sleep, you stepped out of this movie. This movie is no longer that important to you because you have hundreds of thousands of movies that you're playing in simultaneously. But one of the purposes of the soul is to know itself in physicalness. And so as you begin to recognize, how do I go into that sleep space? How do I begin to play in this fifth dimensional space? You start to clear the physicalness for the soul to start to experience itself, that part of you that goes home every night, in the physical body. And you begin to know what the soul knows and what you've always known in a physical space. And that's what you're creating.
Wow. Oh my gosh. You're like, we're coming to the end, Jim. And I wanted to talk about like what you're doing right now with your mastering alchemy and the park bench project, and you're having a retreat soon, and you have retreats often, and kind of want to end on what kind of where you're at, and what direction, where do you see yourself, and how do you.
Well, the thing that's most important to me in the moment, if there was a most important, is this park bench. And the park bench is that aspect of what Metatron said, holding the door open for all of humanity, and not just this planet and other aspects where they're in third dimension. Can you begin to create a new realm of consciousness, a new thought, a new concept, a new creation? And it's in that light, it's in that state of well-being. So if I said to you, think of all the massively wonderful things that you can think of if you could experience an engagement with humanity from laughter and joy and creation and permission and allowing it, what would it look like? So we are basically have a project called projectparkbench.com. Please go. It's free. We're meeting 3 Sundays a month, and we've done it now 4 times, and we, I think, have something approaching 5,000 people.
Wow.
And we expect that to be 50,000 by the time we get into February, March. But this period of time between now and February is really a really big period. Lots of third dimensional cracks are going to appear.
Okay.
The game, as it's been pushed to the edge, is all of a sudden going to become exposed as something that just simply doesn't work anymore the way it's constructed. It's going to be disruptive in the 5th dimension. And that's one of the reasons why bringing your attention over here and starting to live in the joy eliminates a lot of the hooks that keep pulling you into the limitation. But that park bench is creating not a concept. This is not oh, I hope it's going to be wonderful. This is a tangible, intentional creation in action. That new realm is beginning to have density. It's beginning to have tangibility, and it's a place where you begin to put your attention in. It doesn't go away. I make the comment, it's like jumping in water and then you get out, you're still wet. This octave, this joy, ease, balance holds a smile that doesn't go away as you begin to play and go into it more and more and more. And so it's an invitation to all of you who are listening. It's free, 11 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, projectparkbench.com. And come sit with 5,000 other people who are intentionally creating well-being.
And it's through imagination. That's right. Like that's a big part of that.
Oh, imagination is the cornerstone to your
Yeah.
creation. It's one of those things that were taken away from you in that 1 and 2 and 3 years old. It's that place where you imagine beauty and it's going to start to appear in front of you.
That, when you describe, like, if you want an apple, or I don't, what you were saying in one of those episodes, you're going to have that in the 5 year. It's this instant manifestation.
What you think is what you will experience, not just think.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, you've changed my life, Jim, and
Oh,
I
great.
have enjoyed this so much. So people can find you mastering what
MasteringAlchemy.com
alchemy, right?
and projectparkbench.com.
And you have your retreat, but I know that's soon. So is there anything planned in the future?
Well, the retreats that we have are really very focused for all of the people who are playing in Mastering Alchemy. Mastering Alchemy is a journey. It's not just a class. It's not a certificate after 2 weeks of, hanging out. It's really, how do you do everything we just got done talking about? How do you simply let go? How do you reposition yourself to realize this guilt, this blame, this shame really has no value to me at this age? It's a past experience that has no value where I am right now. But if I had joy and laughter and ease, all of a sudden I'm going to begin to magnetically start attracting like-minded people
Yes.
to me and me to them. And that's the new dimensional space of well.
Yes. Yes. And like mentioned to you, my retreats for just kind of this thought came out, and it is that magnetic pull. And I said, gosh, they're sold out. I mean, it's like when I see the mats that are, they're full, like they all come together. It's this magnetic pull of us like-minded
Yeah, yeah,
energy.
yeah. Show up and they will come,
Right.
as
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Build
principle.
it and they will come. Right. Like that's how
Exactly,
I feel. Like
exactly.
it's just amazing.
Yeah,
Okay. I've enjoyed you and thank you. And oh my gosh, I can't wait to have people go down your rabbit hole like I did and learn the master, like just the way you make it so simple should be something that people are so attracted to and say, well, geez, it's almost like it's too simple. Well, that can't be that easy,
yeah,
but it is so simple. We make it so hard. And that's where
it is.
that density and that heaviness of that, I watch as a mom, watch these girls grow up. And after listening to you and think, oh, it's just been so heavy, it's time to lighten up.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's remove these blinders
yeah,
and live our life in this love and joy and all the words you just said and create this universe that is waiting and we all can live it now.
yeah. And in that Mastering Alchemy kind of essential tools and level 2 work, it says this is how you do it. I mean, that's the whole point. It's not expensive and it's just simply kind of very mechanical. Play here, play here, play here. But it really takes you to the place where we've been talking for the last hour.
Yes, thank you. Ah, so appreciative.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity and I love all the things that you do for people. So please keep doing it.
Oh, thank you.